The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. and thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Chris Burton. Alex has the morning off. He is on assignment. And we have some breaking news from overnight out of Southwest Bakersfield. A child has died after being run over by a sedan last night. It happened around 7:45 p.m. at a home on Seasons Drive off Panama Lane and Ash Road. According to police, the 5-year-old boy fell out of a family sedan and was run over. He was taken to Kern Medical but later died. The investigation continues, and anyone with information is asked to call Bakersfield Police at 327-7111.
Fire crews have stopped forward progress on a brush fire along Highway 58 just east of Highway 223. The fire started just after 7:20 p.m. when a semi-truck caught fire. A short time later, a caller reported the brush had caught fire. The eastbound lanes on Highway 58 were closed while fire crews worked to put out that blaze, but officials started to slowly reopen them around 8 p.m. to let those additional units get to the scene to clear that burned vehicle. Firefighters were able to stop forward progress of the blaze at 16 acres. One lane remained closed overnight, but according to the CHP page, it has since reopened. And residents and firefighters in Napa County are breathing a sigh of relief this morning as containment increases on the old fire. Evacuation orders have now been lifted. The fire scorched nearly 600 acres and was 15% contained at last update. CAL FIRE says the fire is much less active now. They hope to contain it and control it very soon. So far, no one's been hurt and no homes were damaged or destroyed. The cause of that fire is still under investigation.
And just as wildfire season is heating up, CAL FIRE is running low on firefighters. CAL FIRE needs 3 firefighters to operate each and every engine in its fleet, but the agency doesn't have enough personnel to do that. So firefighters are often kept on the job 40 to 60 days straight, multiple times a year. To fix that, North Bay State Senator Mike McGuire is sponsoring legislation to add 356 full-time firefighters.
Helping to get relief allows our members to get home, be with their family, and then get some decompressing time to just reinvigorate themselves physically and mentally.
The legislation will also add more than 700 seasonal firefighters to replace state prison inmates who are no longer available because of the state's early release program.
5:05 is your time now, and in your 17 Court Watch this morning, a man accused of leaving the scene of a deadly crash this weekend pleaded not guilty to multiple charges and was ordered to be held on $1 million bail. Bakersfield police say the crash happened Saturday night on Highway 178 and Alfred Harrell Highway. The victim, 56-year-old Morgan Barber, died at the scene. The driver of the pickup truck, identified by police as 28-year-old David Alvarez, ran from that scene. He was arrested and booked into the Kern County Jail the day after. Alvarez is due back in court on June 10th. And 3 men arrested in connection to 2 separate shootings at a local event venue earlier this month have pleaded not guilty. Investigators say on May 22nd, 2 men were denied entry into the Palazzio reception venue after refusing to allow security to conduct a search for weapons. One of those men, identified as 26-year-old Bobby West, allegedly pulled out a gun and started shooting into the window of the business. Inside, police say 43-year-old Gary Clayton and 22-year-old Anthony Felix got into a fight and pulled out guns, and Clayton started shooting. 2 men suffered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds, and all 3 were charged with gang participation, attempted murder, and various other charges, and are all due back in court June 10th.
17 Crime Watch now. A Detention's deputy's been arrested, accused of bringing methamphetamine into Laerdo jail. 42-year-old Elizabeth Fernandez, a sheriff's office employee for the past 21 years, was arrested yesterday, also accused of being under the influence of a narcotic. Officials said she was not working in an armed capacity at the time of her arrest. Kern County Sheriff Donnie Youngblood says staff will pour through Fernandez's records and previous testing to see if they missed possible signs of abuse.
You think you know employees, you think you know people, but obviously there was a side to this employee that others didn't know or didn't say. We don't know yet. We're still in the beginning of this investigation, but it's beyond me someone with 20-year record in law enforcement decides that using methamphetamine is a good idea.
Youngblood says it's still unclear whether the drugs were for Fernandez herself or for an inmate. However, the sheriff says Fernandez did not have contact with inmates at the time of her arrest.
The Kern County Sheriff's Department has 5 canines on its force, and each is now outfitted with a new custom bulletproof vest thanks to a generous donation. 17's Marco Torres has the story.
This is a customized ballistic canine vest. It's used to save law enforcement canine lives, and the Kern County Sheriff's Office received a full set for their entire canine unit. Each canine vest costs $5,000, and they're customized for every dog, helping to keep them safe while they serve our community. Each vest protects against bullets and knives.
The way that crime trends are going, now all of our dogs need the same protection that we get.
The vests wrap around the dog's torso, protecting all of the vital organs.
Similar to body armor that's worn on humans and on deputies on patrol, it's going to protect the vital organ areas. Similar as it would on a human, this is what the vital areas are on a dog. Since it has underneath protection, this whole thing right here is armor.
But the vests have a shelf life of just 5 years and must be replaced to keep the dog safe.
So it just means after those 5 years, they are not sure that if the vest would still stand up to the ammunition that maybe it's rated to stop.
Thanks to a donation from Spike's Canine Fund, a national nonprofit, these new vests, which would have cost the county $25,000, are free. And they're lightweight. At 2 pounds, it's still easy for the dog to do its job.
Now that we have like an added layer of protection for them, it gives us a little bit more sense of comfort when we're asking them to do these dangerous things to protect the citizens of the county.
Something you can't put a price tag on. These ballistic canine vests might be expensive, but the costs saved from donations all go back to the dogs and to community projects. From the Kern County Sheriff's Office, Marco Torres, 17 News.
5:32 your time now. A baby was found safe after a mother's SUV was carjacked in South Los Angeles. Authorities say the child was inside the Toyota RAV4 when someone jumped in and stole the vehicle. It's unclear whether the vehicle was left running and if the mother was threatened at the time it was stolen. Several hours later, though, the baby was found safe in the abandoned vehicle. The child has since been reunited with her mother. There's no word of any injuries. The suspect still at large.
17 Court Watch now. Convicted murderer Jamie Osuna could be reinstating his criminal proceedings for competency. Osuna is charged with murder and other crimes in the death of cellmate Luis Romero at Corcoran State Prison in March of 2019. At the time of Romero's death, Osuna was serving life without parole for the torture and killing of Yvette Pena here in Bakersfield. Last year, criminal proceedings were suspended when a judge ruled Osuna incompetent to stand trial. Osuna was transferred to a psychiatric inpatient program for treatment where psychiatrist leaders said he'd been restored to competency, meaning he understood the charges against him and could assist legal counsel in preparing a defense.
Families this morning and for the past couple weeks have been feeling the stress of rising costs of food and fuel, and parents are growing more desperate as a baby formula crisis drags on.
The White House and Federal Reserve are under pressure to get inflation under control as one of the top banking executives in the country warns we could be headed toward an economic hurricane. NBC's Bree Jackson reports from Washington.
From the grocery store to buying a home, Americans are paying more. Gas and food prices are taking a big bite out of consumers' budgets.
It's definitely hurting. This is insanity.
Republicans blame Democrats' policies for a 40-year high inflation.
So the next time you fill up your car or go to the grocery store, you can thank the Biden administration.
The Treasury Secretary admitting mistakes were made.
I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take.
J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon issuing a warning.
Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. We just don't know if it's a minor one or Superstorm Sandy or Sandy or Andrew or something like that. And it's you better brace yourself.
There's a lot going on right now.
President Biden says fighting rising costs is a top priority. He also made a striking acknowledgement regarding another challenge American families face, the baby formula shortage. The president says he didn't know the severity of the problem until it was too late.
I became aware of this problem sometime in early April about how intense it was.
The administration announcing new overseas shipments of formula are on the way, but the president warns financial relief from high food and gas prices is unlikely in the near term. This week, President Biden laid out his latest plan to tackle inflation. It includes fixing broken supply chain issues and improving infrastructure. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Time now 5:36. We move to Uvalde, Texas, where the blame for an excruciating delay in stopping the gunman at a Texas elementary school has been placed with the school district's homegrown police chief. That school police chief, Pete Arredondo, who led the response to the mass shooting 8 days ago, spoke publicly yesterday for the first time in a week. Texas DPS says Arredondo has not responded to Texas Rangers for a follow-up interview after authorities said he ordered officers to wait instead of immediately charging into the classroom with the gunman inside. But Arredondo told CNN he has been talking with Rangers daily. The Texas Law Enforcement Union is now strongly urging members to cooperate fully after a great deal of false and misleading information.
Well, just over a week since a lone gunman shot and killed those 19 children and 2 teachers in Texas, another lone gunman has claimed more lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Police say multiple people, including the shooter, are dead. NBC's Dan Cheneman has the story.
A Tulsa hospital campus, the scene of America's latest mass shooting.
At 16:52, 4:52 hours, our dispatch received a call of an active shooter at the Natalie Medical Building. We had officers arrive at the location at 4:56, so a 3-minute response time.
Police ran to the second floor after hearing shots. 5 minutes after arriving, they made contact with the suspect.
We have 4 civilians that are dead. We have 1 shooter that is dead, and right now we believe that is self-inflicted.
The shooter has not been identified. Police say he was armed with 1 long gun and 1 handgun.
Honestly, I never thought in a million years I'd be going through this, but here I am.
Outside the hospital, those with loved ones inside eagerly waited for news.
He has responded that he's okay. They all went down to the basement.
The hospital's CEO asked for support.
And there is nothing more this community could do for us than to pray for the families and the loved ones and the victims of this senseless act.
A familiar request for prayer after an all too familiar mass shooting. Dan Cheneman, NBC News.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.